What's good everybody, this is CP and welcome to a very special video. Today I'm going to talk about a few of the juiciest rumors in the NHL right now. And if some of these go down, it could definitely have a huge impact on many teams around the league in both conferences. One of the juiciest ones that I've came across here was Kevin Weeks on Twitter. He recently put out a tweet saying that he wouldn't be shocked to see at least 4 transactions with the New York Islanders coming down the line. Yeah, so who knows, this could come up very soon. Yeah, and I'm just quickly spitballing here, but from the intensive research I've done on Google, I've come to conclude that maybe the following things could happen. If you were to ask me, I would probably say that one of the most obvious is Nazem Kadri's signing. Because if you have been reading the rumor mill lately, then you probably saw a lot of Kadri's name being linked to the Islanders. And apparently there might be a deal set for him at least around 7 million, rumored to be around 7 years. So let's assume that comes true and they announce it sometime at a later date. But then I feel like this could have a huge trickle down effect for the rest of the Islanders roster. In that I suspect there will likely be movement up front and probably a forward or two has to go. Because in this day and age and the salary cap era, it is just financially not possible for the Islanders to keep all the forwards they have right now. Now the next move I suspect the Islanders are going to make is that they're going to extend Alexander Romanov. They got him in a trade from the Montreal Canadiens over the summer and they seem to really like the kid. So to me it makes sense that they're going to try to extend him. And last year he came at a 1.1 million AAV. So let's say he gets a raise and closer to maybe 2 million or maybe 1.5. Then that's more cap space that the Islanders will have to clear to make room for Romanov. And overall, I feel like this is a pretty good move because he could be that solid second pairing guy that they use to put beside Noah Dobson, and I could see him staying there for at least the next several years. And one more big move for the Islanders that could play out is the extension of defenseman Noah Dobson. Now, if you follow the Islanders closely, you know that this kid looks like he's going to turn out to be a stud on the blue line for the Islanders. So I feel like it might be in the Islanders' best interest to lock him up as soon as possible. Last year, Dobson had a pretty big breakout year where we saw him get 13 goals and a career high of 51 points. So it's probably safe to say that he's only going to continue to get better at this point. And that the way I see it play out for the Islanders for Dobson's next contract is that they could go both ways. One, they could maybe extend him to a bridge deal, maybe a 3-year deal which brings Dobson to 25, and then at that age he'll still be a restricted free agent. Yeah, so much like the Matt Barzal situation. Or on the other hand, if the Islanders and Lou Lamoriello really believes in him, then I suspect the Islanders will try to lock him up for longer term, maybe around 7 years or 8 years. Because hopefully at that rate, before he breaks out even more, they could get him at a slight discount. I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say instead of handing out the crazy 9 or 9.5 millions we saw last summer with defenders, maybe they could get Dobson to agree on a slighter discount at around the 6.5 to 7 million mark. And in that, I feel like it's a win-win for both sides, as Dobson will get his big contract and the Islanders could keep a very good D-man for probably most of his best years in the NHL. Now with those 3 moves, I suspect probably maybe a trade will go down. And just by looking at the Islanders roster and the cap situation, I feel like 3 of the names that could be trade candidates would probably be Josh Bailey, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, and maybe even Anthony Bolivier. Because cap-wise, those guys are not cheap and they need to make money for the likes of Kadri and Dobson and probably Romanov. So in that sense, Bailey is making 5 million, and they also have a younger guy like Oliver Wahlstrom who's probably coming up and could take their place. And we also can't forget about a player like Kiefer Bellows, who also needs a new contract. Yeah, so right now, if you were to ask me, probably due to the age and his cap hit, I would say that Josh Bailey might be one of the first ones to go. Essentially, the Islanders probably have to offload his contract, maybe along with Bolivier or Pageau, and I feel like there might be some market for these players. Either teams with a lot of cap space or teams looking to improve and add depth scoring. Because those 3 players are all proven forwards who could improve any team's offense. So the question that I would ask is that if you were a team like the Ottawa Senators, would you go after someone like Bolivier, Bailey, or ironically try to bring back Pageau to give your top 9 even some more firepower? And would this be a move you think Dorian might consider, since he does still have some cap space left at his disposal? And especially since they made moves for guys like Giroux and DeBrincat earlier this summer, then I feel like it gives them a little bit more urgency to win right now. And I personally think a guy like Bailey or Pageau would look pretty good as the Sens' 3rd line center right now. It would not only give their offense some more extra depth, especially in the bottom 6, but also it doesn't hurt, especially if injuries come up for the Sens during the season. Also, if the Sens want someone with a little bit cheaper cap hit, then I think Bolivia might be another trade candidate to consider, since he does come in a little bit cheaper at a 4.15 cap hit and is still pretty young at only 25 years old. So some people might argue that he is that perfect guy to fit in with the current core the Sens have right now and could be used as a very solid complementary guy to grow with players like Tkachuk and Stützle. For Senator fans, what do you think about these potential trade targets? Or if you were Pierre Dorion, would you use the assets to go for someone else? Also, for New York Islander fans, do you think these are the 4 moves that are going to go down, or do you think I'm completely out for lunch here? Make sure you comment below to let me know. Now, moving on to another juicy rumor I think deserves some attention here, involves Jakob Chychrun and the Arizona Coyotes. So according to a tweet sent out by Sean Simpson at TSN, he said that the feeling is that Chychrun will get moved before training camp, and the Sens are in the mix with other clubs, but the ask is ridiculously high. Smart that Dorion is being patient, so let's see how it plays out. So in my opinion, that's a pretty big tweet. This could turn out to be something huge. Obviously, this is a rumor, of course, and I'm not saying that this has an amazing chance to happen, but if a Chychrun deal does happen for both teams, this could be a potentially huge move for the Senators. As we all know, their top 6 on offense looks pretty good after the retool this summer, but at the same time, they also still have some cap space left to make a few more moves. And if you ask many Ottawa fans, the next step might be to upgrade their defense. That's probably the most logical thing to do, and therefore, in my opinion, adding a defenseman like Jakob Chychrun could actually catapult this team to the next level, which would probably put them in the playoff conversation in this division. By the way, I actually made another video taking a deep look into expectations for every team in the Atlantic Division, including the Senators. I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty juicy one, so make sure you check that one out right after. Anyways, obviously the Coyotes asking price might be the biggest roadblock for the Sens to make this deal happen. As Simpson said in the tweet, the price is ridiculously high. So my guess would be the Coyotes probably want a couple high picks, probably a first rounder at least, or maybe even 2, and maybe even a high-end prospect like Jake Sanderson included in the deal. Now, if you were the Sens GM, would you consider a deal like that, or would you consider a huge overpay? Because right now, I feel like you can make the argument that Sanderson could turn out to be just as good, or maybe even better than Chychrun in a few years. However, you probably have to wait a few years for his development. Meanwhile, you're getting a pretty much finished product in Chychrun who could probably help your team win right now. Better yet, I think the better question to ask Ottawa Senator fans is, what type of offer would you give the Coyotes? And if they don't take it, you would leave it and go somewhere else to find your next defenseman. Let me know in the comments below. Now, to build on this Jakob Chychrun rumor, the tweet said that there were other teams involved. And I'm just speculating here, but could a team like the Edmonton Oilers be interested in Chychrun again? Yes, I'm saying again because the Oilers have been rumored to be one of the teams linked to Chychrun earlier in the year, actually during last NHL season. And obviously things didn't play out because apparently the Coyotes were asking for the moon for Chychrun at that time. Yeah, but obviously for good reason, as there's a lot to like about Chychrun. He is 24 years old, a proven 23-minute top 4 D-man, and he comes at a very reasonable 4.6 million cap hit. As a bonus, the Arizona Coyotes are probably a very attractive trade partner for many teams around the league, as they have the ability to take money back. Granted that you probably have to add a few sweeteners in the deal. However, I feel like a potential Chychrun deal is still very attractive for a team like the Oilers. Not only would adding him bring their defense to the next level, because let's keep it real, the way I see it, the Oilers were already a 3rd round team last year and actually might be a few moves away from competing for a Stanley Cup. Upgrading their defense should be one of the team's main priorities. Some might go even further to say that bringing in a guy like Chychrun is the type of deal that brings them one step closer to making the Oilers defense championship caliber. Do you agree? Because if you look at the roster, ideally a move like this would give Edmonton's defense on the left side Nurse, Chychrun, and Kulak. Meanwhile, Bouchard, Ceci, and maybe Tyson Barrie on the right, if the cap situation works out, of course. To me, that's a pretty good looking top 6 to bring into the playoffs, especially on the left side. However, like the Ottawa Senators, I feel like the biggest obstacle for the Oilers is what price Ken Holland is willing to pay. It was rumored earlier that the Coyotes wanted a young player like Philip Broberg involved in the deal, along with with a high-end prospect and a bunch of picks, which some Oiler fans might argue is a little bit of an overpay. And as many Oiler fans know that Ken Holland and management are very high on a kid like Philip Broberg, and they could actually see him being an impact player for the Oilers in the next few years. So I'm not sure if they're willing to part ways with a high-end prospect like Broberg so soon. At the same time, to keep things realistic, the Oilers have other cap issues to figure out. They still have to sign Ryan McLeod, which should be the team's next priority. And once that goes down, Holland will probably have to get busy to try to fit everyone else under the cap. But since there's still belief that Holland is going to move Jesse Puljujarvi, especially if he can find the right deal. So perhaps to land Chychrun, the Oilers can maybe work on a 3-team deal with someone like the Ottawa Senators, as Puljujarvi's name has been linked to the Senators, especially earlier this summer around free agency and the NHL draft. But as an uncertified armchair GM, what do I know, right? So I'm not exactly sure how that gets done. So the real question I want to ask Edmonton fans is, if you were Ken Holland, what price are you willing to pay for Jakob Chychrun? Are you out if someone like Philip Broberg is involved? Better yet, for both Ottawa and Edmonton fans, do you think a guy like Jakob Chychrun is worth trading for at all? Or would you go after someone else for a little bit cheaper price? Do you agree or disagree with everything I said in this video? Make sure you let me know in the comments below. And if you like, feel free to call me out as well. If you want to watch more of my crappy videos, then make sure you click the links on the side right here.